Start a small business. No need to work 40, 50 hours a week, slaving your life away. Obtain financial freedom, be your own boss, and create your own destiny. Moguls are the new superstars. The path to country club membership and a leased Mercedes-Benz is paved in gold as you take your business trips to Orlando or Vegas. Validation from your in-laws is just an LLC and Facebook business page away. At least, that's what they tell you anyways. Through social media, websites, and targeted ads, you're sold an image. Small business owners seem to walk on water. You'd think you're the last person on earth working a regular job with a regular boss. But there's trouble in paradise, and its name is in over your head. People start looking to start their own business, don't know what they don't know. But that's why we started our Small Business Confidential podcast, to share what we've learned from years of experience. There's not a lot of people in on this, so remember, dear podcast listeners, you heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush-hush.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Reilly with another fun-filled episode on the Small Business Confidential, and with me is one of my favorite guests and my partner in crime on the real estate side, Mike Ferrante. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic, Mr. Reilly. You are too kind.
Okay. Well, you're getting ready and going on your road trip. What were those cities you're going to again?
Yeah, we're calling it the Ville trip. We're going to Louisville, Knoxville, Asheville, then to Greenville, South Carolina. Got something special planned in each stop.
All right. Good for you. Getting out of Dodge. All right. So Memorial Day coming up. So, well, the subject that I want to talk about is, when you have your own business, is confrontation, how you confront yourself, how you confront other people. And confrontation doesn't necessarily mean screaming and yelling. It is a decisive act as opposed to a passive act, which is reactive. And what I have realized in going through and warehousing in my head my own journey, having a business for the last 45 years, between the contracting business and the property management and real estate development business, is there is a direct line to my ability to being confrontational and dealing with what I have to deal with that day, that week, that month, and my profitability and my better quality of life, less stress. So what can you add to that to start us out with, Mike?
Well, I think you hit on one of the things that is a mantra for our company, and I think you have something similar. We always say proactive, not reactive. I think if you're reacting, you're late to the party. You have to be thinking ahead and confronting issues before they become serious problems.
Exactly. And I think that's why when people talk about a business plan, what that is really is a roadmap. And you have to be following that roadmap, and you have to be decisive in terms of making the changes and adjustments you need to make. And they're going to be coming at you at warp speed. It's like making the jump from when you work for a company or when you work for a boss, and all of a sudden you're working for yourself. You're dealing with employees, you're dealing with vendors, you're dealing with customers. All of a sudden, it's like somebody who has played in the minor leagues is now in the show. They're now in the major leagues. Everybody is got explosive fastballs, curveballs, et cetera, et cetera. And now you are in the major leagues. And that's what it's like when you have your own business. There's nobody to blame. There's no boss to blame. If you're gonna blame your employees by saying over and over again, well, I just can't find good help, look in the mirror. You're the problem. You're just going to have to think it through. Or all my customers are a-holes and they're always ripping me up. Nope, look in the mirror. So the first thing you have to confront is yourself. Your thoughts?
I agree 100%, Mike. And, going back to your roadmap analogy, something I wanted to add on to that is that, yes, the business plan is the roadmap, but how many times do you follow the map and find out, hey, this road is closed, there's construction, and you have to take a detour. And I think it's the nimble businesses whose plans give them flexibility and the ability to adapt that are going to be successful, especially in a market that is probably shifting right now.
Oh,
But
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Supply
Mhm.
chains, hiring, staffing. No, it is. We're going through some major changes in our economy now.
Yeah, and
Keep
to
going.
your point about looking in the mirror, I think that the type of owner, boss, entrepreneur who tends to place blame elsewhere, I think that's a real problem because who is responsible for hiring that talent? Who's responsible for training that talent? It's you. So I think that it's real easy, especially if someone has a propensity to shift blame, to think that it's always someone else. But the reality is that the buck stops with you.
Right. And that is something you may not appreciate if you're coming from a corporate world or you're coming from just endless jobs when you're working with a company. Because if you have a habit of blaming your coworkers and blaming your boss without being curious about who they are and what they're going through and why they react to why they react, it's kind of like, hey, take a walk in my shoes before you start criticizing. If you've developed those habits in yourself, you're going to have a very hard time running your own show. Your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners should constantly be honing their skills, learning how to be a better leader, reading books, reading articles, following other leaders that you want to emulate. I think that's so key.
Right, and those discussions that you have with yourself, they're going 24/7. You've got a legal pad always around you that you can jot down ideas, thoughts. You're always working the problem. It's always marinating in your head, the business that you're in. When you run into a problem, you have to reverse engineer and learn from how that problem happened. And that's what confrontation is all about. You're challenging yourself to play back the tape and see what you did wrong and not be the victim. Because successful people in business, and I would say the same thing in life, your marriage, your relationships, being a parent, it's all about challenging yourself to change and to adapt. And I know that my own experiences with my own business, I went through that same kind of journey where, where do I find good customers? Where do I find good workers? And those two problems I had to solve to get to a point where we could be, profitable. What's your journey been like?
I have had the same experience. And, I think that as you were talking about that stuff, Mike, a great quote came to mind. Jim Collins, good is the enemy of great. So I think that it's not just when there's a problem or an issue. I think that part of the reason that I've been successful is that I'm not happy with enough with good. Good is good, but I want to be great. So I think taking the time to analyze what happened, taking a chance to step back and look at it and say, okay, that was good, but how can we make it great? That's the difference maker. Good is the enemy of great. That's where I hang my hat on that saying.
And I think what will help everybody to be more confrontational with themselves is to keep reminding yourself that there is a solution out there. You just have to push yourself to find it. Because if you're making an excuse with your situation, you are wiring your brain to be reactive and to be defensive. when you tell your brain, I got to figure this out, trust me, in 24 hours, you're going to be in the shower, you're going to walk out, and boom, there's something you didn't think about. And it'll be right in front of you because you are wiring your brain to be thinking of solutions, not thinking of how to cover your ass internally or with your customers or with your employees.
I love it, Mike. I love that you said that, because how many times have you been working on a problem, and when you take that time to unplug for a minute, like you said, whether you're in the shower or, walk in the park, suddenly it hits you, right? I mean, that I know that's happened to you as well.
Right. Exactly. Well, one of my favorite shows that I like to listen to is the Halftime Report on CNBC. And, what's fascinating about that show is I've been saving, investing for 40, 50 years. And maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was all Greek to me when we talked about the stock market and bonds and short positions and puts and the whole 9 yards. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert at option trading. That's way beyond me. It's not something I'm interested in doing. But when I listen to the Halftime Report, and folks, you should try this experiment yourself. Just listen to it every day for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Just listen to it. It's up, it's down, it's this and that. Pretty soon, you're learning a language. And you know what? It really isn't that tricky. It's like anything you do that's new. It's like learning how to cook. It's learning how to invest. It's learning how to save. You've got to first tell yourself that I have to learn how to do this. I have to learn how to be a business owner. I have to learn how to be a manager. You're not born with it. Getting an MBA is not going to help if you first haven't gone to that journey to prepare yourself to learn, relearn, learn from your mistakes, adjust, shift, problem solve, etc. That is the most important thing to be successful in a small business.
Yeah, and so many of those skills you just talked about, Mike, are not taught in school, and I don't want to head you down that rabbit hole, but
we're not going down there.
Yeah, but it's so true that these are things you don't learn in school, and you have to be willing to open your mind to learn these things.
Yeah, and you think about like what we're going through now, these stocks that are just crashing right now as we speak. We have Peloton, we've got Zoom, which is a great product. We have a company called Upstart Holdings, which is a fintech company. We have these biotech stocks. I mean, a year ago, these were the darlings of the people on the Halftime Report. And now all those stocks are in the can. We think about what happened with the crash in 2008, when you had the Alan Greenspan, the Federal Reserve chairman, who never saw it coming, never saw the crash coming. You think about what happened in Afghanistan when Biden, finally pulled us out of there. Now, his execution was half-assed. I mean, he was told that the Afghan army was going to be okay for 6 months and that they could buy some time. As soon as the U.S. pulled out, everything fell apart.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back.
If you enjoy listening to our Small Business Confidential podcast, we're sure you'll enjoy our first podcast, The Cleveland Real Estate Investor. We give outside investors an inside look into the real estate market in Cleveland. Cleveland has been on the rise, and investors from all over see those cheap prices and salivate. Our job is to educate those investors and steer them in the right direction with several years of experience of how to do it right and many examples of how to do it wrong. Find the Cleveland Real Estate Investor podcast on any app you listen to your podcast today.
Now, do you hear any of the experts like Greenspan, Halftime Report, got people in the State Department or the Pentagon, former defense secretaries are now blaming Biden for Afghanistan. They were just as wrong, but you never hear them say that. You very rarely hear people say in life, I was wrong. I screwed up. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought this, it was that. I've got to readjust my thinking. You don't hear that in life.
Why do you think that is, Mike? Why do you think some leaders are so afraid to admit they were wrong?
I think they've just gotten to the habit of, I don't know. It's a good question. You answer that. Let me think about that. Okay.
Well,
let me go in the shower. Maybe I'll come up with an answer.
I mean, one answer that comes to mind is, is it all just ego? Is it such a sign of weakness? They think it's such a sign of weakness to admit that they're wrong, and it's purely ego driven.
Well, one thing you got to avoid is you got to strike the right balance. I think of JFK right after the Bay of Pigs. JFK made a speech where he said, defeat is an orphan, or a mistake is an orphan. Nobody wants to own that. Or everybody go on Wikipedia and look that up. And he took full responsibility for the Bay of Pigs, even though he was assured by the CIA that this was a no-brainer. Success, all they had to do was show up and the whole country would collapse and kick out Fidel Castro. They couldn't have been more wrong. But JFK was, like Harry Truman, the buck stops with him. And what happened was he went public, he admitted the mistake, and his popularity actually went up after that. And that laid the groundwork for the changes he made in his own presidency, which just reaped dividends when the Cuban Missile Crisis came along. He didn't trust the military. He didn't trust the CIA. He knew there was a lot more going on there. And I think, we had a program, a week or two ago, we talked about mentors. The best mentors are the ones that share the mistakes that they made. And I think for a lot of people, admitting a mistake is admitting some personal failure, when in reality, we're making mistakes every other day.
Yeah.
In little ways.
Yeah. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough, or you're not putting yourself out there far enough. You're not pushing yourself hard enough, I think.
Yeah. And if you're constantly like, I don't know, those people that follow the Cleveland Browns, I mean, hopefully we've got a worldwide audience here, but we've got a great organization with the Cleveland Browns now. But our head coach, his second year last year, every game, people would ask him questions like, why is Baker playing? Why is this guy playing? What's going on? And he would keep saying over and over again, I got to do a better job coaching. This is on me. This is on me. This is on me. After a while, it became a cliche. Now, it's one thing to admit a mistake. It's another thing to use that where it's just noise. Okay, so why do you keep making the same mistake? What's that old expression? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're making the same mistake, you're going out with the wrong girlfriend or boyfriend, or you're on your fifth marriage, or you've already had 4 businesses that have failed. It's not enough to simply say, I made a mistake. What you have to say is, why did you make the mistake? Because again, we used our analogy of a roadmap. You're going down this road and you keep making a right turn when you should have made a left turn, right?
I'm with you. Yep.
So I think that the whole prospect of confrontation starts with understanding that this is not comfortable for you. It's not comfortable for anybody to confront the fact that they've got to learn something. And a lot of times your gut's telling you what the right decision is. It may say, you know what? I don't know about this person I'm hiring. They've got a checkered work history. They've had 5 jobs in 1 year, and I'm just probably number 6 before they move on to number 7. Your gut's telling you that. Do you have the ability to confront yourself and make that decision? Or a customer that is just pounding on you? Do this. Well, I thought this was free. I thought this was part of the job. Well, I'm not happy. And I remember a turning point came to me, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I wrote on the estimate sheet, we're painting the house, we're fixing the gutters, we're fixing the back steps, but the garage is extra. Customer says to me, hey, I thought the garage was included. I said, no, it's extra. It's written right here. Oh, no. Well, I thought this, garage was included. I'm not happy with this. And I looked at the guy and I said, look, I don't care if you're not happy. All right. The garage is extra. Capiche? Do you get it? Don't lay the guilt on me. I don't really care if you're not happy. Right now, guess who else is not happy? Me, because I got to deal with this bullshit. Right?
I get, yeah.
So you're in the real estate business. I mean, you get people who keep calling you. They want to drive around. They want to look at it. Hey, the meter's running. I charge $100 an hour. I'm happy to give you a guided tour of Cleveland to look at houses that you're not going to buy. Right?
Yeah.
That's confronting.
I'm way more, Mike. I charge, just for the record, I want to put this out there. I charge way more than $100 an hour for that.
Okay. But you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I mean, how many times do you have to get yanked around before you have the balls to confront the situation? And what it takes is practice. It starts out with acknowledging that this is something that you have to do. The next step is that this is not going to be easy. That this is like, hey, when you run a marathon, you don't run a marathon the first time, you build up to it. This is what learning how to be confrontational is about. You have to practice it. You have to look in the mirror. You have to use as little words as possible. Not acceptable to me. Mrs. Jones, do you want to go ahead with this job? If not,
we
why
talk
not?
about fire. Yeah, we talk about firing clients. That's one of the things. It's tough, and especially in the real estate business, realtors tend to feel like, oh no, I need every client I can get my hands on, and that's simply not best practice. There is a time to fire a client, and I'll tell you what, Mike, it's something that requires practice too. It's like anything else. No different than practicing other skills. I think practicing your scripts and dialogues, role playing. Get with other business owners. I'm a big believer in a mastermind group, and you get a mastermind group together of people who are in a similar position you are, and go to them and say, hey, I need to learn how you guys fire a client. Help me with that script. What do you say?
Right. And this is where, I'm not going down the college rabbit hole. This is why an MBA is a false sense of security. You need different tools in your toolbox. You need to go to a public speaking class. You need to go to a sales class, a pure sales class, because that is going to teach you so much about yourself. And that's going to get you halfway there to managing situations in life, especially a sales course. It's breathtaking. And you know what is stunning? It's not taught in any school. Just shocking when you think about it. And we talked about that. But confrontation is something you have to practice. And you begin by laying out that roadmap, laying out that business plan, and then looking at it every day. Where am I on this journey? And am I going off the road? Am I making money? Or am I going to delude myself that I'm being successful when in reality this is not working and I need to change? And this is where you have to confront. So confrontation is a big word to be successful. Mike, final thoughts. Then we'll let you go out and confront the world.
Right. Yeah. So another great quote came to mind, begin with the end in mind. So when you guys are making your roadmaps, think about what that end is. And I think if you're asking yourself, when is the right time to have a confrontation with yourself, challenge an employee, challenge a customer, it's when whatever it is that's being thrown in your path isn't getting you to that end. Whatever that vision is at the end of the roadmap, if it's not consistent with that vision, that's the time to put up your dukes and have some confrontation.
You're right. And you know what? You can do this, practice this just set your schedule for the week on Saturday. Sit down, give yourself some think time for a couple of hours, and then just write out, this is what I'm doing next week. This is what I'm doing. And then when that week's over with on Saturday, you look at that checklist and you ask yourself, how much of that did I accomplish and get finished? Because the next schedule you do, the next checklist you do that's connected to your plan is going to be a little bit more realistic, and it's going to be a little tighter. And then measure yourself how you did. It's just like, saving money or losing weight. You're going to write down what you ate every day. You're going to write down what your exercise was. You started at this weight, and at the end of the week, what's your weight?
Yeah.
Are you making progress or not?
And if I can add to that, Mike, write down the things. And when you look at it, what things did I do that I shouldn't have done? What things should I have delegated? What things did I do that were counterproductive to what the end goal is? I think if you actually do that exercise, just like, I'm trying to lose weight. Well, shoot, I shouldn't have eaten that cupcake on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Something's not working. And final thought for me, which is keep that journal. Second page. First page is, what are you doing this week? Actually, first page is, what's your game plan? What's your business plan? Next is, okay, what am I doing this month? What am I doing this week? Measure that out. But on a separate journal, what were the mistakes I made this week? Just write them down. Write them down. Acknowledge the mistake. Give yourself a pat on the back for writing that mistake down. And you will find that within 2 or 3 months of doing all those things, you're going to be able to look around corners. You're going to see problems coming that maybe 3 months prior would have always blindsided you. And that's how you build up your radar. So we'll everybody start writing their mistakes down. Start, looking in the mirror. I'm good enough. I'm strong enough. What Del Franken said in Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough and strong. God damn, whatever. We're gonna end on that quote. Okay, everybody. That's it for this episode. Next week we're going to talk about the art of selling with a closed salesman. Mike, you're going to love this one. All right.
I'll tune in. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. All right. See you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Small Business Confidential. To support, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also add our podcast to your favorite streaming services. Everything is appreciated, and we'll be back soon with another episode and upload schedule. The person voicing the intro's name is Travis Reilly. Thank you, Travis. And the music was done by our engineer, me, Amari.